Hi, it's the Allison Arngrim Show, and I'm Allison Arngrim. Okay, some of you may know me as the evil Millie Olson from Little House on the Prairie. But tonight, I'm Allison Arngrim, and this is the Allison Arngrim Show. And here on the Allison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good, the movies and the television shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and much more interesting place. And oh, do we have one tonight? I met this woman. Okay, I go to all these events. I go to all these things. I go to the Cherry Blossom Festival, Missouri Cherry Blossom Festival, which is amazing. And I keep going every year. And every year I find out some other like unbelievable, crazy thing and meet someone. So they had a show. And I go to this show, and this woman is doing this one woman show about the woman who took care of Jimmy Carter when he was a little boy, Rachel Clark. In fact, it's called Raising a President, the story of Rachel Clark and Jimmy Carter. And this woman's doing this show. Oh, okay, well, that'll be fun. Blown blown away. Me and Charlotte Stewart from the Prairie were sitting there just going, this is great. Why have we not heard of this? Oh my God. And then she had to leave because she was like heading out. She was doing the show. Also, she did it in Georgia. She actually did it for Jimmy Carter's birthday. Yeah, he like saw it. The whole Carter family has seen it. She's that good. So I find out more about this woman. And okay, just her intro. Where do I even start? Joanna Maddox is a professional actress, singer, and storyteller. Appeared in numerous national television and radio commercials and corporate videos. She's even been in The Heat of the Night and on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. She, of course, has a BFA in drama from University of Georgia, not surprising. She's toured throughout the U.S. She's an approved touring artist of the National Women's History Project. She does absolutely everything. She doesn't just do Rachel Clark. Oh, no. I find out that this is only one of over a dozen women she portrays. Harriet Tubman, a bus ride with Rosa Parks. Oh, a musical piece, Life Lessons of the Divas, which, yes, includes Tina Turner, Diana Ross, and Whitney Houston. The number of people she has performed as and brought to life. Dr. Mae Jemison, Madam C.J. Walker. I've been watching her videos online. I am absolutely floored, stunned, and so thrilled to have with me Joanna Maddox. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Allison. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And oh my gosh, I'm just elated to be here with you today.
Well, I am just so impressed. I said I was impressed with the show, and I asked you, the Reverend Inman, I got to get her email, but then I start looking up and I went, how many people does she do? Is there anyone she's not doing? What the? And I just stunned, just floored, absolutely stunned by this. Now, what inspired you in the first place to do this, to do these kind of performances of bringing all these historical women to life?
Oh my goodness, Allison, I'm a storyteller. There's a story there. This is like a long journey of how these women came to be. I started out, majored in drama in school and did the acting thing, did a commercial here, commercial there. And actually, with the stories, I started out, I have three sons. And do you know that, the nursery rhyme, Mary had a little lamb whose fleece was white as snow?
Yeah.
Mary went to school. She followed them to school one day. Well, that was me. My sons were in school, and I would go there. And when I got there, it's like, okay, now you got to do something. So I started out just reading. I would go volunteer and read to the students. And then, I made up some stories when my sons were young. So I started telling those stories. And I did that for years. I would go to the school, tell stories. And one time, it struck me because I was at the school. The kids, how they line up to go to lunch. And I'm walking down the hallway. One of the kids looks at me and he says, I know you. You're the storyteller.
Uh-oh.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I am a storyteller. So That's how it all got started. I was there, going there for years actually, and I would volunteer. And one day the teacher told me, she said, you should. She told me that I needed to go and see a storyteller, and I did. I went to see the storyteller that she referred me to, and my son and I, we were sitting there, and I watched this guy tell a story. He acted it out. It was called Wiley and the Hairy Man. I told that story before. Being an actress, I act out all the voices, everything, and I thought, I've been doing that for 10 years. And the teacher told me, she said, the librarian, she said, we pay you to do this. And so that's how it started. One day every month we had, every February was Black History Month. And I thought, okay, I'm here at the school all the time. I really, as an actress, I need to do something special for Black History Month. And I thought about it, and it was, Allison, it was almost like God gave me Harriet Tubman. I, researched her life. I actually wrote it out, the whole story, trying to tie it together to make it into a story. And actually, I hate to say it, but I wrote it out. I was ready to do it, but I never did. For 3 years, I had Harriet Tubman in my filing cabinet.
No,
I did. I asked myself, how could I? But I needed a date. And so one day in choir rehearsal, I sang in choir for like 13 years, well, actually all my life. And one of the choir members was a teacher, and she said, we're getting ready for Black History Month, and the students are going to dress up and they're going to do characters. And you're not supposed to talk in choir, right? Anyway, I said, well, I got Harriet at home in the file. She looked at me, she said, girl, get Harriet out the file, come to my school. She gave me a date. And I think that's what I needed. I needed a kick in the butt to do it.
That's what it takes. It takes something like that. And like the power of reading stories to people. I found this out because at the start of the pandemic, I needed something to do. Everyone else was bored at home and they all needed something to do. And I thought, I'll go back and reread the Little House on the Prairie books. I've read them before. I'll reread them like from the beginning and see how the characters develop. And then I went, well, everybody else is stuck at home. Hey, I'll go on Facebook Live and read them to people. This turned into the best thing ever. And I was just like, I did 600. I just did finish my 600th reading.
Oh my gosh.
I did all the Little House books. I did books about Little House. I did books by other people talking about Little House. I did everything, books about Laura. I even read some of them. And when I started reading some of the Wizard of Oz stuff, I came up with voices and accents for all the characters and just got like absolutely hilarious. And it's so much fun. And it creates a thing in people's minds. It creates a connection. It creates it's very different art form than other things. It's really incredible.
Yes,
but so Harriet was first. So I was going to say, who's the first one? And Harriet Tubman. Well, that makes sense. Underground Railroad. Boom. She's first. Okay.
Harriet was first. Once my choir member gave me a date, I did Harriet for the first time. I got my costume together and went to the school and I did it. And it was amazing. One parent came up to me afterwards. I mean, she had tears in her eyes. And I thought, wow, this is such a powerful story. But then I did it for my son's school, and that's all she wrote. Harriet started it all. I give her her props because Harriet actually, I always say I had 10 jobs. I'm part Jamaican because Harriet gave me so many more. And when I did it at my son's school, one of the teachers came up to me and she whispered in my ear, she said, now you need to do Rosa Parks.
So like going in order, starting with Harriet way back, okay, and then move. That makes sense. But we read about Harriet Tubman, and if you're lucky, you got taught in school about Harriet Tubman, all she did. But to see someone talking about how Harriet Tubman felt, actually living that and the danger she's faced and what she had to go through, live in front of you and it's a real person, that's a whole other thing than just reading it in the book. Whole other world.
And that's what the teachers told me. They would say that, the children read about Harriet, they study Harriet, but to actually see the story acted out, it's another dimension. It really is. It's intimate. I've had people say they felt like they were on the railroad, on the
Oh,
Underground Railroad with Harriet, going through everything, going through the emotions of all of the things that she went through with that performance.
and then so okay, so we start historically going oh look, it's Rosa, now it's time for Rosa Parks, totally makes sense. But the
Yeah,
Underground Railroad here, now it's the bus ride with Rosa Parks.
I know. But I wanted to share with you, I was doing Harriet at an outside storytelling festival, and there was a lot of people there, teenagers, all ages. After the show, this young man came up to me with his girlfriend. He might have been about 20, 22. He had seen me do Harriet in fourth grade. Yes. He said, I saw you do Harriet in fourth grade. And he said that show just touched him, her life. But just little things like that. I've been doing it so long that it I have some memories of people that have come up to talk to me. One little girl in second grade, I did Harriet at the school, and there's this part where Harriet is traveling on the Underground Railroad. She's like traveling and she's on the actual road. And I have this part where, Harriet gets this chill down her spine. So she runs off the road. And later, 2 minutes later, these slave catchers come along on their horses. Well, one little second grader told me, she said, I know when she ran off the road, that was God, talking to her to tell her. I thought they amaze me. The students amaze me that they, you know, eh,
Well, you
eh,
even have a quote, "It is my belief that we can be inspired by those who live before us, who despite the obstacles they faced in life continue to pursue their dreams. Children need to be inspired to dream, achieve, and believe in themselves." Hello.
yes, yeah,
And
yes,
when I was reading about, Laura Ingalls Wilder and all that stuff, well, of course, it was the height of the pandemic and everyone was starting to bake bread and do all these things. And people, they joked about it, but it was kind of true. They said, well, you read about the Ingalls and everything they went through is worse than anything we're going through. Because every other chapter, they're starving or they had typhus or something. And even on the show, we had plague and anthrax. So people said, well,
mm,
this is great. This is perfect for reading during the pandemic. And people were looking to see how other people live through hard circumstances. And this is what all the best stories, all the best shows are seeing
yes,
how people overcome horrendous circumstances and survive. These are our favorite stories.
exactly. And your the Little House on the Prairie. I mean, that show was just so well done. You guys were that. It's a classic. It's a classic. And I'm in Argentina, and it's big here. I
Now,
watch you in
how
Spanish.
did you wind up in Argentina? I have to ask, how did you wind up in Argentina? I was just like, what? You live in Argentina?
I know. Oh, that's another story. That's another story. But
But Little House is big there. I
yeah,
realized Little House, our three biggest countries are France, Japan, and Argentina. I know that we are huge in Argentina.
yes. You know, I've traveled a lot, and I thought, I was just always wanted to live abroad. I just thought that that was something that I would do one day. And I thought, okay, maybe Italy. First I was in love with France. I spoke French, and I spoke a little French. I did the PAs on the plane in French, and so I studied it, and I always wanted to live there. Because it's such a beautiful language. And you're Canadian French, right? You speak French.
I'm Western, like Scottish Canadian, the
Okay.
non-French speaking Canadians. But what happened is I started visiting France. I was 40 years old before I went to France. found out what a hit the show was there and how much they liked Nellie Olson. And I wound up doing a movie there, and I wound up doing a show, a comedy review with a guy, and we now do a whole thing in French, whole comedy show in French about Little House. And I had to go back to school. I'd taken French in school, but I was terrible at it. I went back to school, and then with
Uh-huh.
traveling to France and having to do things in French, I learned French, and I now do a whole show in French.
That is amazing.
Right? So I know can be done. But there you said, like you needed a date. You needed a date. That's happened to me.
Yeah.
That's how my one woman show in the US got started. Well, we have this club in New
Wow.
York. We need you to play. What? And then so and the same thing. So you're hey, we can do your show in France. I have a date. Wait, what? And so it's like, well, I guess I better have a show.
Amazing. You know, that
that's that's
having
what
that
we
extra
actors think.
push,
We actors there. Yeah.
having that extra push to do it, you know. Um, I know you had I just want to go back to when you asked me about Rosa Parks. When the
Yes.
teacher, it was a teacher that gave, you know, she said I should do Rosa. Something in my mind clicked in that moment because when she said I should do Rosa Parks, I was like, yeah, I can do Rosa. And I'll never forget, I went to the school, you know, my son's school to do Rosa dressed, you know, like the picture. And the librarian, she asked me, she says, can I help you? She didn't know it was me.
Yes, she was so had no idea. She didn't even know it was you. Yes.
She didn't know it was me. So, you know, my mind started clicking. I said, oh my gosh, I can do Marian Anderson. You know, she had to go to Europe to sing opera because it was not, you know, accepted here. I can do Dr. Mae Jameson. I can do Madam C.J. Walker, you know, who started her business on $1.50. The Mae Jameson, the first Black female astronaut. So within 3 months, Allison, I had 5 women.
Yeah. And I'm looking, okay, so it says Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Marian Anderson, Wilma Rudolph, Bessie Coleman, Madam
Yes.
C.J. Walker, Dr. Mae Jemison, story of Rachel Clark and Jimmy Carter that I actually saw, Ladies of Distinction, African American Savannah heroines, life lessons from the Divas with the three, okay, Whitney and Diana and Tina, Joanna Tales, okay, where you just fun interactive folk tales and stories. Here comes Bray Rabbit and African American tales. Good heavenly days. That's a lot of people. And
You
when
know, it
I
just
had not heard of Dr. Mae Jemison, which she was later after I was out of school, but Madam C.J. Walker. I was. We were not taught of Madam C.J. Walker in school. This is a travesty. Why do we all not know more about Madam C.J. Walker?
you know, a lot of I worked quite a bit when I started this because the teachers, it was just ready to go. They could, you know, but I didn't study about these women when I was growing up. That they weren't in the history books. So
Mm-mm.
I called my programs were live history. And I always like to say, this is not, you know, we have Black History Month, but this is American history. You know, these women were Americans. So it was like an education for, you know, adults and the students as well. And I was very pleased when I would go to the school and students would tell me, well, I did a paper on Marian Anderson. And I thought, wow, how cool is that? So they are learning about, you know, these famous Black women who, you know, are noteworthy.
Well, mine,
And
but now I had heard opposite Marian Anderson because my mom and my Auntie Marian were heavily into opera, so I would hear about Marian
um,
Anderson. But um, this woman, Madam C.J. Walker, was a millionaire. She was the first Black female millionaire, and who
yes,
came from nothing. And I'm like, why? Why are we? I think that now, wait, I know our engineer had just said they're making a movie about her. So why do we not know more about this woman? And tell me about, I need to come see this show. Tell me about Walker.
well, you know, she was the first one in her family to be born free. And her life story is amazing because she really she made her living doing laundry, washing clothes. And she said, you know, I may be poor, but my clothes are clean. And that's what she did. She was a laundress. And that's how she was making her money. And she said, it's like in the story, at one moment she had an epiphany. It's like, so what am I going to do when my back is, you know, so sore I can't do this anymore? And she came up with a way. And back in the day, there were no products for black hair. And, we have all textures. I always say we are a people of the rainbow. We have all colors. Texture of the hair is, from A to Z. And there was nothing for hair products. So she came up with hair products for black women, telling black women that, you need to wash the hair more often. You need to apply these products that she came up with. And then, they credit her with inventing the straightening comb, but there was already a straightening comb in Europe. What she did, she redesigned the straightening comb so that it had larger teeth so that you could, comb through the, black hair. And so that was a way to straighten the hair. And she was a force to be reckoned with because she traveled. She was like the first Avon lady.
She's very true.
She would go door to door, city to city with her products, telling women, there was no cell phone and all this stuff. So she would go door to door. And, a sad note about her is that, during this day, there were no restrooms. So if you're on the train, she developed a habit of holding her water. And, she developed kidney disease.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she died very young, but she was something. She was like the first woman. She dressed well, and she would go to these conventions. And there was one that they weren't going to let her speak, and she said, I may have started in the cotton fields, but I'm not ashamed of where I started. She said, yes, I picked cotton. Yes, I was a laundress, but I have built my business from the ground up. She had her business covered a block in Indianapolis. And, when the 1929, when the crash came, of course, every business was losing money. So, but before then, she was on it and, a force to be reckoned with.
And this
So
is a time when, as you said, the products were there. I mean, obviously, there was no ordering anything online on Amazon. So you were only products women, if they were going to buy, were going to be at the department stores. Well, the department stores weren't stocking anything for black women. And if they were letting black women even shop there. And so it was there to go get. So everyone was having to do it themselves. So to
yes,
have high-end commercial products, this was earth shattering at the time.
exactly. And it's like that this was a void that there were no products. So everyone was wanting to get her product. And I had someone that actually had a container of hers. She used a picture of herself. Her hair was falling out, and she said that she was wearing scarves on her hair because she had issues with her hair. But after she started using her own products, her hair started growing. So she was her own advertisement. She had pictures of herself before and after on the little container.
So she was a marketing genius. She was a marketing genius and made herself the face of the product.
Hands down. She was amazing. And all of these women actually, they've all touched me in a special way. Inspired me to overcome obstacles per se. And Wilma Rudolph came later, then Bessie Coleman. I had an interesting show that I did for Bessie Coleman in Waxahachie, Texas, where she was born. They were celebrating the 100th anniversary, and it was so cool because there was a guy there that actually had an old biplane. So I got a chance to take pictures with that, and the whole community came to the show. I mean, they were celebrating her. Her home had been, destroyed, but they had a little marker where her home stood.
And then Bessie Coleman was a pilot.
Exactly. And,
unheard
back
of.
in the day, she wanted to be a pilot, but there were no schools that would admit her.
Well, I mean, they didn't like women pilots, and then a black woman pilot, impossible.
Oh, no, she was a woman and she was black, and it was like, forget about it. no, we're not going to admit you. So she could have just given up and said, well, that's a dream that I will never do. But no, she started studying French and she traveled to France and she went to, she received her pilot's license. She is the first American, black or white, male, female, international pilot in America. So, and
And then Dr. Mae Jemison was an astronaut.
Yes, Dr. Mae Jemison was the first black female astronaut of color. Look, Dr. Mae Jemison is she's part Jamaican too because she had a lot of jobs as well. And she was a chemist. She was a chemist, a doctor, an astronaut, and she's amazing because she once again broke the barriers. She went to Stanford, and she was practicing, and then she had this dream of when she was a child. She said that she would look up at the stars and always dreamed of traveling. And because she was in medical school, and she shared this with some of her colleagues, and this one guy, he just thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. It's like, you a pilot, an astronaut. But she fulfilled her dream in 1992. She was the first woman of color to travel into space. So, all these women, they're something.
Well, and I could see how you were connected. As you said, she wanted to travel. You wanted to travel. It's, the connections are there. And then you came up in the church choir, which, when you think about Whitney Houston and all the famous singers, so many of them came out of the church background and the choir, where you get those incredible voices. And you came up through the church choir. So you actually do have the pipes to get away with doing Whitney and Tina and Diana Ross. Because I thought, she's really going to, I had to look at the video. I was like, really, you're going to sing? And okay, I give up. Yes, apparently you can.
If I had, my favorite singer is Whitney, and I just loved her. When I first heard "I'll Always Love You," I was actually driving, and I heard this voice. I pulled over. I listened to that song. It brought tears to my eyes, and I thought, who is this? So I just fell in love with her. She was amazing, an angel's voice. And, I always say there's only one Whitney. I do my version of Whitney, but
I saw the Tonight Show clip. You talked about how you said, are you an impression? You said, no, an interpretation of, that you attribute to. You sort of channel. You're channeling these people.
Exactly. After I had all these women going, I love to sing. So I remember talking to a friend of mine. I was like, hey, what if I do, Tina Turner and Diana Ross, because they're such icons, and they were traveling in the 60s when it was difficult, and they're still around. They had longevity. And then I could have like Whitney introduce them, like trying to tie it all in. And you got to make it educational if you're going to be doing this in school. So, that was my line, that these women were, trailblazers. And so that was going to be my show for middle schoolers.
Wow.
And yes, I thought middle school all the way up. And then an elementary school called me to do the Divas. And I thought, okay, we'll do it for 3rd through 5th. So I get a call from one of the teachers, and she tells me, she says, we're upset. And I'm thinking, what, what's the matter? She says, well, you're only going to do your show for 3rd through 5th graders. We want to see the show too. If the kids don't come, they can't come. So I thought, okay, we'll do it for K through 2nd as well. Allison, I kid you not, I was blown away when I was doing Tina Turner, and the 2nd graders were singing along with What's Love Got to Do.
They think the radio's going. Their parents listen to music. Little kids, they know Whitney, and they know Tina, and they know Diana. And then, of course, I think you got a lot of the teachers really wanted that show.
So I had to change everything. I was like, okay, this show is for K through, K through adult. And actually, it was a fun show because, I would have the teachers, dress up and put wigs on and be my Supremes. And that was always a hit, for the kids to see their teachers up on
Oh, they
stage
go
with me.
wild. But all of
It
these
was a
women
crowd
had
pleaser.
all had difficult lives growing up and had to overcome so much to become the divas they were. So again, another educational piece.
Exactly. Exactly. They have afforded me, I've traveled all over. I did the Divas in France, Switzerland, Mexico. Um, the historical women, I've traveled all over the U.S. Presenting those stories. So it's just been a great blessing, for
Well,
me.
the Rachel Clark piece that we saw in Missouri, I was impressed because there were people from Jimmy Carter's family in the audience that night, and it was talking about that you in fact you had to go when we're done because I'm off to Georgia because you were going to be doing it for more Carters, and according to the notes, you actually did it for Jimmy Carter for his birthday, and so how much pressure is that? You're playing Rachel Clark, who was there from when Jimmy Carter was a baby and was his best friend, and they went fishing, and she was like a second mother to him. And I mean, when I saw it, I said the pride of this woman talking about. I knew he was going to be governor. I knew, and then he was president. Yep, yep, yeah, saw it coming. Knew he had it in him. And
Yeah.
but the family, these are all the people who knew her, who were
Exactly.
there, and you're getting up and
Exactly.
doing a one woman show as this woman.
Well, that came about. I was invited to perform as Rosa Parks at in Plains at the high school, and the curator of the museum, Miss Annette Wise, she after the show she gave me a tour of Jimmy Carter Farm, and so we were at this home, and she said, "This is the home of Rachel Clark," and throughout these little rooms, when you go into the room, you push the button, and then there was President Carter, his voice, and
Oh,
he was
yeah, little
talking
thing.
about Rachel Clark. So you hear his voice. He says how much she meant to him, and everything, and it was just very touching. And and then she looks at me and she says, "I've been looking for someone to play Rachel Clark." Yes. And she said, "I think it's you." And I took a moment, and it's like, okay, Lord, what are you working out now? And I thought that, and she told me that they wanted to do this performance for his 80th birthday. Now
Right.
this was maybe July, and his birthday's in October. And it was like, I thought, this is huge. I have to pray about it,
I would think. I mean, oh yes, I'm going to do this for President Jimmy Carter's birthday. Okay, yeah, just some pressure, just a little
Exactly.
pressure, possibly there.
Yeah, a little pressure. And so all of the other women, I've done everything. I wrote the stories, but then you know, I didn't have a director. I did the show myself. But for
So
this
when you
show,
put them together, you know the person, you study the person, and then you
right,
write the script, and you kind of go, I mean, into sort of method acting land. How did this woman feel, and have to explore the whole life and
exactly. And then, but for this, because it had to be ready to go the first time I did it, I thought, okay, I'm gonna have to hire a director for this one. And so I remembered in I was an undergrad at Georgia, and Jessica was a grad student, and she was a director at Theater in the Square. And I called Jessica. She was elated to be the director of this play. And she, everybody knows Jimmy Carter, but she loved the story, and she worked with me, and we got her ready, to do. And that October, for his birthday, I actually did the show. President Carter and Miss Rosalind were on the front row, and he started tearing up, and I thought, okay, I can't look at him anymore, because
no.
I can't cry and do the play. So it was just special. I mean, all of the family of Rachel Clark that was in town in Plains, they came to the show.
So wait, her family was there as well. Not only Jimmy
Yeah.
and his entire family, but her family were there. And you're up there
Yeah.
doing the Rachel Clark story. Okay.
Yes, and I got to talk to some of them after the show, and they said, "You remind me so much of my auntie," and it was just a special night because on both sides, the Carter family, Rachel Clark's family, because this is someone who she was just, she was a regular woman who went about her life in such a way that President Carter will tell you that he was influenced by about 5 people, and she is one of them who had
And it's
an
the
impact on his
bond that
life.
they had. It was just, well, okay, well, now I'm going to scare you because people bringing up more people. So I have not seen that you have done either of these women. Have you ever done a piece on Eartha Kitt?
I have not.
All
Oh,
right,
wow.
now I'm really going to scare you. Have you ever done a
Oh,
piece, since you can sing, and I notice your
okay.
vocal range, you tend to go lower, so this is perfect. Have you ever done or considered doing Miss Ketty Lester, as in Love Letter Straight from the Heart?
Ah, what's her name again?
Ketty Lester, who had the hit Love Letter Straight from the Heart, Ketty Lester was on Little House on the Prairie. She played Hester Sue at the blind school. And she is very much still alive and a friend of mine. And she just actually came out of retirement to do a set down at the Gardenia in LA last week for her 87th birthday, I think it was. And she
Ah,
has had the most mind blowing, amazing life and overcome so much and sings in this fantastic, beautiful, low, gorgeous, bluesy voice. And
okay.
a friend of hers, we're talking about like someone has to do the Ketty Lester story. And he was talking
Yeah.
about people he knew. And I went, wait, as I was getting ready to book this show with you, I started sending him pictures going, this woman could do the Ketty Lester. She could do it. She could do it. She could do the Ketty Lester
Oh
story.
my gosh, I'm gonna look into it. I'm not familiar, with
Google,
her
Google,
story, but
Google. Ketty, Ketty, Ketty Lester, Love Letters, and of
okay,
course Little House, and her story, and she's written a book, and it just
okay.
the things that this woman went through in her life and survived, and then going through the record industry where everyone was completely horrible to her and didn't make any money, and then wound up becoming a hit in television. And she said, "Well, Little House certainly paid better than the music industry." So she said, "Michael
Right.
Landon's checks cleared." Uh, so
Yes.
she
Wow.
has quite that story, and you actually have a similar vocal range. So I'm like, I think you need to look up Miss Ketty Lester, and I think you need to look
I
into Eartha Kitt.
will. I will. Eartha Kitt, I saw her live.
I saw her live too. I'm obsessed with Eartha Kitt.
She's a little pint-sized firecracker.
And again, like I think four of your women here had to go to France to make it. How many of these stories had to go to France to become a pilot? Had to go to France. She had to go to France to make it, and like
Mhm.
came back from France. People thought she was an import from Europe because yeah,
Right. Josephine Baker,
Josephine
you
Baker.
know, goes to France, and I mean, she they loved her there. And in the States, things were going on, and she's just regular. She's, and over there, she's a star. She's an icon, and so she stayed. That was her niche. That was where she felt loved. To come back home and to have to go through the back door and not to be able to eat at restaurants and can't get a hotel. It's like, why come back to that? So she, you know,
This is what I've heard over and over again from the older singers. Ketty's told the story, and they've all told the story of trying to tour back in the day, except you can't stay at the same hotel as the other people on the tour, and you can't eat in the
wow.
restaurant. And there's the hotel that all the white artists will be staying in. And here's the other hotel where you and the people from the band will be staying at.
Yeah.
And
Well, a lot
and
of times
there's
they had to
craziness.
stay. They would have to arrange to stay in the homes of people in those towns because hotels would not, allow them.
Right. If they only had one hotel, then that was the White Hotel. Exactly.
Yeah,
That would be it. And they
exactly.
had what the Chitlin Circuit.
I'm
People,
sorry.
there was a thing they referred to as the Chitlin Circuit, where like
Oh,
only black artists. And yeah, I was
yeah.
always amazed by people. Oh yes, I was on the Chitlin Circuit. I was like, you were on the what? And it's absolutely. They were like, oh yeah, that was what you went on when you couldn't get booked on the White Circuit.
Exactly. And a lot of them made their careers, and or honed their skills on the Chitlin Circuit.
And when we think
So,
about your story, this wasn't that long ago. This is
mhm.
not, this isn't the 1800s we're talking
No,
about.
I think
This
it's
is the
60.
50s and 60s. Some of this is in my lifetime that things were this terrible.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's you know, the fact that they continued and persevered, it just opened the door for so many others. They in spite of what was going on, I forget which artist it was, but I think they were at the hotel and they wanted to go swimming. It wasn't, you know, allowed at that time, but I can't remember which artist it was, but one of the black artists, they did go swim in the pool.
Mm,
And the hotel, they drained the water from the pool the
right.
next day.
Rather than let anyone to do, just did rather have an empty pool than let someone who wasn't white swim in the pool. That's
Yeah,
how insane things were. And that's why I'm so these stories that you're covering such a broad selection of women in history, singers and entertainers, as well as astronauts and self-made millionaires and pilots and doctors.
I know.
It's such a
You know,
cross section, and the response you're getting is so positive. Now, I know things are still completely terrible in many places. Do you have difficulty with any negative response to these shows? Because so far, I mean, what I saw in Missouri was, a standing ovation. So,
no, it's almost like they open the doors. One thing about Harriet or all of the women, Harriet would say that she could hear God's voice guiding her. Because it was amazing with everyone trying to catch her per se. She never was caught, so she would come and go, numerous times to the same plantation to free the slaves. And she was a religious woman, and religion, you can't talk about religion in school, but I I asked Harriet, in Harriet's voice, her relationship with, her maker was such a part of her life that, you know, as this character, I can go into the schools and represent, uh, her life story, and I can, portray her beliefs as well. So for me, I've had teachers come up and say things like, "This is your ministry. I'm happy. I'm glad that you're doing this. Keep doing it." So I really haven't, the doors have just been slung wide open. I haven't had any, negative, um, anything negative to happen with these stories of the women, because they're women that are admired, and their stories are just so powerful.
and I
Um,
think, yeah, in your performance, I think there it is. It's sort of like overriding so many things. It's crossing such barriers, and that's why
yeah.
often, especially with music, will cross barriers.
Oh, it
And
does.
and
It
I think
does.
what you're doing, and as you said, the characters. It's like, well, it's not. This show is not a religious piece, but this character had these beliefs and was spiritual. Therefore,
Exactly.
that's a component. You're going to get that. And I think it's so powerful that absolutely it can cut through an awful lot of that with the audience. They're so enthralled, they, forgot to be hateful.
Exactly. And with the story of Rachel Clark, that she was a religious woman, or she believed in God and Jesus, and she passed those values on to Jimmy Carter. And it's just for me, that was before that show, I actually had the opportunity to interview President Carter.
Mm, mm.
And for me, that was just amazing to be there with him, and in his office. Miss Annette Wise was with me as well, and to just talk to him, to get his firsthand view or feelings about Rachel Clark. And he teared up. He actually teared up talking about her, and I could see, I said, my, as a young boy, he loved her, and she had such an impact on his life. And he said that he thought that Rachel Clark probably descended from royalty. He said she always carried herself well, and the way she stood. And, each time I went back to Plains, so I've been going there for almost 20 years to
Mm.
present different women. I did the Divas 3 times there. President Carter was in the audience 2 of those times, and whenever I was there, I don't care if like one time they were, there's the Berry home. There was a family, last name was Berry, so they had built a replica of their house, the Carter farm. So I was asked to come there like so many times. And one time I was there, or every time I was there, I don't care where President Carter was, if he was on the other side and I'm over here, he would make his way. He would always come to me and give me a big kiss.
Oh,
So we have had he actually spoke at my graduation, and he said, well, you don't look like you finished school in 19 blank blank. I said, well, I did. But I just, I've admired him for such a long time, and to be able to interview him, to tell this story, which needed to be told. I would have people come up to me after the show and say, oh my gosh, we had someone in their family, Black woman that, you know, would babysit them. So a lot of the people in the audience that you saw, some of them were like in their 80s or, around
mhm.
his age, had that same relationship.
Oh, there was a very popular family dynamic in that time, especially in the South. That's a
Exactly.
lot of people raised that way.
Exactly. So I had people come up and say, "Oh, they would name the person and just say they were like a member of the family, and they still in touch to this day." So it was, it was a different era, but I think it was a way to, for people to be connected,
Well,
and
maybe
this
now
story
in
brings
watching
that up.
that, they may realize that this woman that they interacted with child actually had more influence on them than they thought. They may now be holding her in a whole other level of respect because of your show.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, where do we get hold of you? Because people watching are going to go, where do I see this? You have a lovely website with fabulous information. Where can people find you and get hold of you and see video and pictures and read all about you and where to find you?
Okay, I have Facebook, Joanna Maddox. I have Instagram, which is Joanna Maddox Sings, and those two mainly. People contact me there, or my email, joannamaddox1 @gmail. I live here now in Argentina, but I always
I,
say
I find that
only a
utterly
phone call
fascinating.
away.
And the website is it what it's Joanna Maddox. What's the website?
JoannaMaddox.org.
.org, joannamaddox.org, and it's incredible. It does have bio and shows and a lot of video and fabulous photos and info there.
Yes, and
So
that
people can
that
book you
website.
if they want to book your show. If someone's watching this now and said, "Well, I need this show at my theater or at my school," can they email you?
Yes, they can email me at Joanna Maddox one, the number one, America number one @gmail.com. And like I said, I always say that, I live here, but I'm just a phone call away. I have a school actually it's a community in Tennessee that has contacted me. They are interested in Wilma Rudolph. They're having
Perfect.
a community night with the parents and the students, and they were going to have the students read the book on Wilma Rudolph, and hopefully that will happen in November. But I have, these women keep me going. I live here, and all of my women sing. Harriet sings, Rosa Parks sings. Every woman, I've put a song in there somewhere. For May Dixon, I Believe I Can Fly. Okay.
You work it in,
So
even if they weren't known as a singer. It's like, well, I know they sang in church, so you sneak one in just
I
to
sneak
have
a
them sing.
song in. I sneak a song in for all of them. And one of the things, how you have this bucket list and there are things that you want to do. Well, I sang with, my church choir in Atlanta, and there was an orchestra. So it was just like full orchestra, full sound. And I always thought, I want my own band. I want to sing with a band. So I moved here and I fell in love. You asked me how I, got here. Well, I, traveled a lot of places. I thought I would wind up in Italy. I went there. I stayed for 6 weeks. I said, just pick a language, and, focus on it. So I thought I would be in Italy, and I actually came here to Argentina um, and discovered tango.
Tango.
And that's all she wrote. You know, I I
Just
fell
to
in
like
love.
everything else when she's not being Whitney Houston, and then wait, tango. Okay.
That's my happy. So I came here and I thought, I'm just going to dance. That's all I'm going to do. And that's what I did for 3 years. And then I thought, okay, well, you're not making any money off your feet. Maybe you need to start singing. So I was dancing one night with another actor, and he says to me, you know, you should do some modeling. And I'm thinking, thinking in my head, okay, I've done that, you know, because, you know, while I was in the States, when I say I was Jamaican, I had 10 jobs. I was an actress, a singer, a model, print actor. I did voiceover. I did industrials, a whole list of things, and the impersonations. And so when I moved here, I didn't really think about continuing that career here. I just thought that I would just dance. And so this actor he gave me a list of his agents. I called him, I sent my picture, and now I'm doing commercials here. So,
You clearly can be like planted anywhere and grow. This is just absolutely amazing. All right, we are actually shockingly out of time. This has gone as if it were 5 minutes. Thank you so much for being on my show. Thank you so much for the
oh,
interview. I want to see all of your different women, and I'm gonna email you stuff because yeah, you need to do Eartha and you need to do Ketty.
okay. I'm going
So
to put
put you
those
to
on
work.
my list.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
so
being here.
much,
Thank you.
Allison. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank all of you. Thank you very much because this is the Allison Arngrim Show, and I'm Allison Arngrim.